finally validated the site, so I think that's a bit late for that. Let me get to my machine. So I've prepared a demo that kind of integrates some of those technologies. What you can see here are store KPIs across the United States for the Contoso company. Now, some observations before entering into the details of the code. Number one, these are Bing maps integrated. The Bing maps are actually integrated in a Silverlight control. The Silverlight control is actually integrated via a web part, a Silverlight web part that is natively available in SharePoint 2010. Now, the fun part begins. What about the push pins? Well, guess what? The push pins in my demo are nothing more but Silverlight controls. So now you can start thinking about all the stuff that you can do in terms of fantastic UI experience. Starting with this, and just to show you that they are Silverlight controls, let me just hover through one of them. Guess what? This is a dynamic behavior. I specifically on purpose made it easy so it can be easier understood. But think about the fact that reacting to the mouse movement, you actually load some data out of band related to that particular store. Right? So let's have a look. How can we do this in a few easy steps? Let me now get back to Visual Studio and show you the first piece of the puzzle. The first piece of the puzzle is a Silverlight project. I've named it GeoKPI, Geographical KPIs. And as a reference, this uses the community technology preview of the Bing map control for Silverlight. That is one key piece of technology that makes this task very, very interesting. And you can download it. It's publicly available on the Microsoft Connect website. So once I reference this, if I go to my example page, all I actually need to do is to add the namespace for the virtual Earth or the Bing. The namespace is a bit outdated, but nevertheless it's the same technology. And once I add the namespace to my user control, I can add the map control. There is a glitch in Visual Studio 2010 that prevents the map control from rendering inside Visual Studio. So we're not going to be able to see it, as I just mentioned, right? Cannot create an instance of map, but believe me, it's here, right? So the map control is here. Now, let me just go back one moment to my dashboard. So basically, the Silverlight web part that you see here hosts an Silverlight application that I have uploaded to one of my, to one of my document libraries. I can't find it right now, but I will show it to you in a moment. Now, going back to Visual Studio, here's the map control. Okay, here's the namespace. It's the CLR namespace, Virtual Earth Map Control with the specified assembly and the map. And that's all I need to do in the example. What about the code? Now, the code is pretty interesting. First of all, what I'm doing is using a very cool technology in this control, which is the layering technology. So what you can do is, on top of the map, you can add Silverlight layers. So what I'm doing here is adding a new map layer to my Silverlight control. And I'm adding, obviously, that layer to the map control, which has the name of my map. Now, I have prepared here a very, very simple type of line of business application, the Contoso Business Services. So what does the Contoso Business Services do? The Contoso Business Services uses Entity Framework to get access to the warehouse and get me back a list of stores with their geographical locations. just for demo purposes, so you can make it much more complicated and much more interesting. But so far, let's stick with it. So it gives me back that particular list of stores. Now, going back to my Silverlight applications, now, because it's Silverlight, there is one caveat that you have to be aware. There's no synchronous call in Silverlight. So what I need to do is to make an asynchronous call to my line of business application service, get store locations. And I'm getting that using this asynchronous call. And once that call finishes, let me just get to do that, I'm actually retrieving the list of stored locations. Now, where do I react? I react on double click. Because since this is a layered technology, I will need to reload those Silverlight controls in the right places every time I zoom in, I zoom out, or I move the map. So what I'm actually doing is to prepare reload and then reload the stores. Well, prepare reload is something that I have entered here because I want to do an extra step today, which is going to be kind of fun. It actually does, it clears the collection of store KPIs that I have locally in my control, and then adds some random KPIs for those stores. Now, I think some of you already know what I'm going to do next. Is I'm going to hook up my business service that exposes business data from Excel services and going to update my dashboard, my live dashboard, using that particular information. But for now, let's just stick with the random value of the KPI. And reload stores does nothing else but instantiating a bunch of Silverlight controls. This is actually the mini store dashboard. This is a Silverlight control that I have created. It's just a simple rectangle, so nothing fancy there, and adds them to the collection of controls. One extra step that I do is I handle the mouse enter and mouse leave, and as you can see here, I'm just changing the size of my Silverlight UI control. So, really complicated? Don't think so. It's quite easy, as you can see. I've taken a bunch of different technologies and glued them together in something that 3 or 4 years ago would have made us scream, right, in order to achieve it. Now, the next thing that I want to add to this dashboard is interactivity. So far, my dashboard here is pretty static. Nothing happens. Well, yeah, it happens. If I zoom in, obviously the store locations are going to be updated and I can see that information. But what if I want a real-time dashboard? So let me simulate that, because